Welcome, STEM enthusiasts.
I am Sophia Lee, an electrical and computer engineering student at Carnegie Mellon University.
And I'm Shaylin Parker, a chemistry student at Carnegie Mellon University. And in Discovering DNA, we are going to introduce you to the exciting world of DNA and genetics.
Renee and Scotty learn evolution science. Hi everyone! Today we'll be learning about evolution and how animals survive in our changing world.
Hi, I'm Nishka and welcome to Probability Magic, where you'll be making some cool graphs out of candy, playing fun and interactive games, and even learning some new magic tricks.
Hi, my name is Shaylin and I go to Carnegie Mellon University. Today we're going to talk all about space and what parts of space we can see from our home on planet Earth.
In March of 2020, schools and universities across the globe came to a sudden halt in response to the emerging COVID-19 pandemic. In order to keep students, faculty, staff, and community members safe, many classes shifted to an entirely virtual learning environment over the course of a few days. As cases continued to rise, many people became more acquainted with video conferencing technology like Zoom. While it was fortunate that many classrooms, offices, and families were able to stay in touch online, institutions like Carnegie Mellon University wanted to provide even more support to its students. With this goal in mind, the university offered a variety of tuition-free experiential learning courses for the summer of 2020. Through these courses, students could continue to engage in projects, research, and the pursuit of knowledge while staying safe at home. One of these offerings was digital education modules, remote STEM instruction for kindergarten through 8th grade learners. CMU undergraduates and graduate students registered for the class with the prerequisite that they should have minimal experience supporting the learning process for younger students. The Leonard Gelfand Center for Service Learning and Outreach connects the CMU community with the Pittsburgh region by collaborating with faculty, staff, and students to provide STEM educational opportunities for students in kindergarten through 12th grade that highlight the research and expertise of the university. As the landscape of educational outreach evolves due to the COVID-19 crisis, the staff at the Gelfand Center have been working to determine how to maintain that unique relationship between Carnegie Mellon and the community at large. This project-based course engaged individual students and teams of students to create workshops that could be delivered in an asynchronous format. Instruction on curriculum development, organization, age-appropriate planning, and best practices for remote learning were the focus for the early class meetings. At that time, students were extremely interested in what they needed to do for their grade. Ironically, as the class progressed, interest shifted more to their work and concern for their younger audiences. Questions shifted from, what do I need to get an A in this course, to, do you think the 4th graders will understand this? Or should I try a different approach? The class began to behave like teachers rather than learners. Working remotely on this project presented some challenges, frustrations, disappointment, excitement, and creative thinking. 12 students signed on to accomplish this enormous task. 4 of those students volunteered to share their experiences with us. Here are their stories. Hi, everyone. I'm Pam Piskridge, the Program Director for Gelfand Outreach, and I also was the co-teacher for the digital education modules. The other teaching assistant was Mimi, and Mimi, say hello to the gang.
Hi, I'm Mimi Wertheimer, the Program Administrator at the Leonard Gelfand Center, and I work together with Pam to design and instruct the digital education modules course that was taught over the summer of 2020.
And we've invited Shaylin today to talk with us about her experience creating the kindergarten through second grade class out of this world.
My name is Shaylin Parker. I'm a rising senior at Carnegie Mellon University. I study chemistry with a minor in politics and public policy. And I was a part of the summer course in 2020, and I made 2 modules. I made Out of This World for kindergartners through second graders, and also Discovering DNA.
So Shaylin, well, first of all, thank you for agreeing to do this documentary, the behind the scenes look at what our students did during the middle of a pandemic to produce some really what we feel outstanding work. So Shaylin, do you want to share anything about the experience of the class and your overall creation of your digital module Out of This World?
Yeah, so a good piece of advice that Mimi and Pam gave at the start of the class, which I think helped throughout the entire process of creating my module, is trying to predict questions that young learners would ask, especially with kindergartners through second graders. It's a group of students that is so curious about everything. So I started trying to, in everyday life, just ask myself questions that they might ask. And that's how I settled on the theme of space for this module, because I can imagine so many kids looking up at the night sky or even during the day and wondering, what are clouds? Where do they come from? What is the moon? Why does it look like different shapes in the sky? And that really got me started. And the overall experience was great. I enjoyed it so much that after the summer course, I applied to work for the Leonard Gelfand Center as well. And I've created since then 3 more modules for different age groups. I just realized I really love teaching, and I'm always really excited to share my love of STEM with younger learners. I think it's so important that we foster creative inquiry and maintain kids' curiosity. So yes, I loved the class.
And I think it's great that you're a female role model for those younger students as well in the science fields.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I speak for Pam and myself when I say we were really excited to see someone take on the challenge of working with that young age group. It can be really intimidating to think about what a 5 or a 6 or a 7-year-old is going to be able to both engage with and understand. So I think I'm wondering, Shaylin, what were some of the challenges of creating activities with a young age group, and then maybe also some of the challenges of doing that at home during the pandemic, meaning maybe limited resources and materials?
Right. Yeah. So I would say that choosing to do a K through 2 module in itself was the biggest obstacle that I faced, especially being a college student, having to keep in mind how you're going to explain everything to younger students. And it's not even just a matter of the content, what will they be able to understand? It is all about delivery too, thinking about, oh, what words do I use in my everyday vocabulary that 5 through 7-year-olds might not use as much? That was popping into my head as I was writing the script, as I was filming it, as I was editing it, realizing like, oh, I should add in a little slide here with the definition of rotation. Also, the speed with which I taught things was something that I had to keep in mind. I had to slow myself down sometimes and leave bigger breaks between the videos just to make sure that the content was digestible for younger learners, especially. Being at home was interesting. I was fortunate that I was able to use my basement as my set. Myself and my siblings, we've all had a love of STEM for a long time. And this included my brother just collecting a bunch of knickknacks that had to do with space. So I was like, oh, great, I'll put these on my set and everything. I was really just trying to make it as fun as possible, a fun environment for a kid to be watching, especially when they're not there in the room.
Yeah, I know in your module, you used quite a few hands-on experiments, and I can imagine setting them up and taking them down and showing progression. Shaylin in that module had a sundial that the kids were creating, and every hour she was out on the front, I guess that was the walkway.
Yeah, and actually I remember specifically at one point during one of the, I think maybe like 2 o'clock on the hour, I had something for the course. It was some sort of little presentation of our work so far. So I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, this is how I'm doing the shot. Is there any way you can go outside at 2 p.m. and do exactly what I did? Show the time on my phone, open the door, show yourself drawing it. And she was game for it. And yeah, I had some supportive family members at home throughout the process.
So throughout the whole thing of creating that module, do you have a most rewarding moment for you?
Absolutely. The most rewarding part of it was actually just how much fun I had making it. I think that's something so important to keep in mind when you're making something for young learners, and also something that just exists online. I kind of connected back with that younger version of myself while I was making the modules, and I found myself, even while I was making some Oreo phases of the moon, being like, oh, I'm kind of having some fun while I'm doing this. And the sundial especially, my mind was blown. I mean, I know the concept of how the sundial works, but actually seeing it realized, I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. That gave me a lot of confidence while making the module. I felt like if I'm having fun while I'm making it and while I'm editing it, throwing in these different colors and worksheets, it's a good sign that hopefully that will translate to somebody who's watching it online. Yeah, having fun during the module was the most rewarding part of it.
So Shaylin, Pam and I were really thrilled to see your enthusiasm in the class, so much so that you made 2 modules for us, one in partnership with Sophia and one on your own. And one of the major differences in those modules was the grade ranges you were working with. So we're wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about the difference in creating modules for different age students.
Yeah, I already touched on a bit before, just content-wise, making sure that anything that you're talking about, your intended audience will understand. Another important difference between making modules for younger learners, which I actually really enjoy, is that if you're making something for 6th through 8th graders, my thought process was to think back to how I was taught it maybe in middle school and what was most effective. For some of those things, it's pretty rigid. There's not too many different ways you can teach someone about Punnett squares or something like that. But when you're working with kindergartners, there is a world of activities out there for different crafts that you can make, different experiments that you can do. And I had so much fun actually picking from all of those. In some of the older modules, sometimes I've struggled to find activities, but with the kindergartners, there are so many things out there, so many resources online that I could find to create the perfect sequence of activities for my space module that I thought were fun as well. With younger learners, obviously at the end of the day, we're making these modules to try to teach them about a concept that maybe they didn't know before. But I think there's more of an emphasis on having an enthusiasm for learning overall. I just want kids to click on the video and just be excited at the fact that they're going to get a bunch of new information about things. Maybe they won't retain it, but just having them be excited about, oh, I want to learn about the sun. I want to learn about the planets in our solar system. That is a big difference that I really try to emphasize when I'm making any module for younger students. If they have a love of learning early on, hopefully that will carry with them, when they're in middle school, high school, and beyond.
I know that was something that Mimi and I commented about a lot in dealing with you as a student in our class. Your enthusiasm is definitely contagious. I said, after listening to the videos and the snippets and the commercials, you had to set part of your homework assignments. I said, I can't wait until this one's done. I'm so excited every time I watch, a little segment of what she has in mind. And it's stellar that you're still with the Gelfand Outreach Center.
Oh yeah, it was very gratifying for Pam and I to watch the growth and also some of the natural instruction, qualities you have, because obviously you think a lot about how kids are going to want to digest information. And when we decided that we wanted to bring on students after the class to continue working on modules, because we were also super motivated by the process, the first place we looked was students who had taken the course, because we were so blown away by your hard work, your enthusiasm. And I think that when we talk about, return on this process and what we've gotten out of it, it's so much more than just digital modules that we have available for, the families and the community that access resources through the Gelfand Center, but it's also the relationships we've been able to build with students like you and what we've been able to see you accomplish, because with every module you work on, we see something new and something exciting.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Truly, I've had so much fun working at this job, and I appreciate the two of you also for having so much faith in me, in my creative abilities to come up with new things and letting me explore different options, different modes of teaching something or delivering something. So I appreciate it so much, and I've had so much fun.
Yeah. And thanks for sitting down with us again today.
Of course.
Thank you, Shannon.
Our next guest is Renee, and Renee created a unique digital education module with her friend Scotty. So Scotty, or Renee, duh. So Renee, come out and say hello.
Hi, I'm Renee. I'm going into my senior year at Carnegie Mellon, and right now I'm doing my senior thesis as part of the Dietrich College Fellowship. Last summer, I was looking for something to do to fill out my summer and maybe learn something new. So that's when I decided to take the course to create my own learning module for elementary school children. Renee and Scotty learn evolutionary science. So it's a module where we explain natural selection and evolutionary science and how that progresses and the different concepts that are involved with learning how animals change and adapt to their environment, as well as add on a little project to figure out how some animals are more adaptable to certain environments than others, and how we have features called adaptations that relate to how animals survive and thrive.
Renee, we loved the unique way that you incorporated Scotty into your module, and it was a lot of fun to go through all the activities you created. What would you say was the most rewarding part of creating the module and taking the summer course?
I think the most rewarding part was creating something that would be used for others as well as for educating children. That was very cool that I was able to put my project at the end on the Gelfand website and then have people actually using it and excited to explore it.
I know when we had the class meetings, you would oftentimes stick on later in the meeting to ask for clarification. That said, what do you think was the most challenging obstacle you had to overcome during your creation?
Well, the most challenging aspect of the project I feel was definitely my unconventional working hours, because the way I function, I was very much a night owl, and I'm one of those people that thrives under a little pressure from an impending deadline. So because I like to work very late at night, and that's when my creative juices flows, it's not very compatible with other members in the house. So while I was recording my voiceover for Scotty in the most terrible British accent at 2 a.m., I will have my door open, and then I'll have my sister with her messy bun, and she's just can you please stop? 2 a.m. in the morning, and I am tired of hearing that voice. And then the door would slam, and then I'll be uh-oh.
My favorite part was testing our created creatures in all those different environments.
We've heard a lot, Renee, about the challenges of being at home, working remote during the pandemic, having family or roommates around. Talk to us about how working from home and in that remote environment impacted the choices you made for your modules, whether it had to do with filming or materials. How did being kind of cooped up at home affect your final product?
It was like mostly the setting where it's just I'm at home. I have to get creative with what type of module I could come up with, because it's not like I have like a ready-made craft station in like a classroom or like a very clean setup, because let's face it, I'm not like the most cleanest person. So there's very much junk around my house. So it's just finding that optimal place where it's just like, don't pay attention to the clutter in the background.
Well, I like the whole idea that you made it so user-friendly for students when you were explaining things and the materials you used. That one shot with recycling the plastic that you used, but you were funny in that you said, but please check permission so that someone else wasn't going to use that for something else. It was just really nice. You were thinking like a student during the creation. You also had a variety of different sets. Tell the viewers how hard it was for you to do that one segment where you and Scotty were in the competition and you were dropping objects down a set of stairs.
Yeah, so you gotta make sure that no one's going down the stairs while gravity's doing its thing with like acceleration at negative 9.8 meters per second squared. We don't want anyone getting popped in the head. I will have my parents like walk past and just like give me a little look, being like, what are you doing? Just throwing things down the stairs like that. And since Scotty in reality is a stuffed animal, it was just finding anglings where he could realistically throw down the bird and just like capture that moment where we have it flutter down, basically like interpreting, yes, Scotty did in fact throw that bird down, because see, there's a picture of him holding it, and now there's like a little flutter of it going down, and there's a picture of it down the stairs.
The creativity was awesome. Name?
I'm just wondering, was there any point in the filming for you, Renee, where you started to do an activity or work on an experiment and you just thought, this is not going to work, I have to make adjustments? And were there times in which you had to enlist help in order to do that, or work with kind of your siblings or parents to complete the shot?
I like basically kind of recorded this as like a one-woman show, because like for me, I was just like, I feel like it's a little too embarrassing if I like go to my sister and be like, can you please film me with Scotty like here, and then start doing some sort of Scotty accent voiceover. Basically, it was just like me either like setting my phone down or my laptop, actually like using photo booth and setting the laptop down and angling it, and then being able to press record and then do whatever.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but while you were taking the class, were you also working as well?
Yeah, I was working during the time. It was like very much beginning stages of COVID, where it was like under lockdown, and my mom actually couldn't find a secretary at the moment. There were days where I had to fill in to be my mom's secretary while she takes patients in.
Yeah, I remember you in class one day when you were in her office working.
Yeah, like I had like one earphone in, well, one earphone out, trying to listen to see if anyone came in, and I was just like at the desk being like, hi guys, I am at my mom's office while doing this class. So that's how things are sometimes.
Yeah. And I think you adapted very well the progression of your module from early, when we required the commercial, and then the little clip that we required as the second assignment, and then the script. You could just see that you were getting the hang of everything, and it was all coming together.
I think the final product speaks for itself. It's really excellent. And so kid friendly. All the activities are engaging. So we're really impressed with everything you juggled during a really challenging time. You were able to create a great end product.
And it was a pleasure having you in the class too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, hi, Nishka. Welcome. It's nice seeing you again.
Hi, Pam and Mimi. So nice to see you again. I'm Nishka, and I'm a rising senior at Carnegie Mellon studying business administration with an additional major in statistics. And I took the digital education modules course last summer, and it was a really fun experience. And I created a probability magic module, which teaches 3rd to 5th graders about the basics of statistics and a brief introduction to probability, including like conditional probability and other similar topics, to make it fun and exciting, but also get them interested in a topic that is actually pretty useful in the real world. And so I tried to implement how it's useful in the real world as well.
Nisha, we are so excited to talk with you and specifically talk to you because you created a more math-based module. And when we had the class come up with their ideas, we got a lot of exciting STEM and engineering topics, but not a ton of math. So we were excited to have someone really dive into math in an interesting and relevant way. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you found most rewarding as you created the module?
I actually went through several iterations of the individual lessons that I taught in the module. I know early in the course, we talked about using words, but also images and making everything interactive. So I wanted to make it as interactive as possible. I realized in the beginning I had like lecture style, which I'm used to, but I realized as a 3rd to 5th grader, I'd want something more fun and engaging. So it turned into coming up with games and interactive ideas where students could pause the video and give their response, and then I would like show them how it works afterwards. So I think that was the most rewarding, is starting off being able to teach in one way and then expanding that so much and using creativity.
Yes, and it was very well done. When you were filming or taking the course, what would you say was your biggest obstacle?
I actually didn't have a video camera or any camera besides my phone camera, and I didn't have a tripod. So it was a bit difficult in the beginning to be able to film. So I ended up building my own little tripod using an old basketball trophy I had from 2nd grade. And I used a bunch of tape, some rubber bands, I think a little mug that I had to use as a base, and I put that on there. And so it took a little bit of building and a little bit of engineering, but I ended up with a tripod and was able to film my videos using that, which was really helpful.
Wow, I feel like we're hearing a lot about really unique problem solving strategies. You know, when we took on the design of this course, we knew we'd be asking a lot of students to create film studios in their homes, and especially students who are not in the arts or necessarily have the equipment. So it's exciting to hear how all of you were able to overcome these crazy challenges, whether it was filming outside or filming with, you know, knickknacks you find around the house, or constructing your own tripod, which I love. It really speaks to how much you've been able to use your creativity and, you know, imagination to make this possible. So in the course as a whole, how would you summarize your experience?
Yeah, I would say it was a really rewarding experience in general. I think it's so much fun to put yourself in the shoes of someone learning a topic for the first time. So I had been, at this point, I was a junior, and so I'd been learning about like theoretical probability and statistics for a good while. And it was nice to put myself in the shoes of someone who's seeing it for the first time and making it more exciting, because I know just like how exciting of a topic it can be. And it was cool to see that eventually students would use it as well and maybe get inspired and want to pursue that topic as they grew older. Because I know I didn't have exposure to it in elementary school, and I would have loved to if there was a chance. So this was exciting for me.
Your ability to take a difficult concept like probability and make it applicable to the younger students. I mean, you didn't use big vocabulary, you know, you used age appropriate activities, and you can tell the part where, you know, you are doing the hidden candy, you were getting excited. I mean, you could see it, the way you were moving the cups, and you know, it was just really fun to watch. And I'm glad to have had you as a student in our class.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway for myself and Pam as we watched your module at the end of the whole process was how lovely it was to see your enthusiasm for the topic. And, you know, however much you were enjoying what was happening was palpable. And we could see children watching it and thinking, I got to go get some candy. I want to do this. Or going to their parents and saying, you know, did we print out that paper? I want to make my predictions. So there's something to be said for choosing a topic that you're passionate about, because if you're enthusiastic, then your viewer is enthusiastic.
Yeah, I remembered another obstacle I had towards the end of that. As I was doing the voiceovers, I got a sore throat. So I was really trying hard to sound enthusiastic while I didn't feel it. So I'm glad that came through.
Throughout the course, Mimi and I stressed to the students that they should highlight CMU in any way they can. Can you tell the audience how you did with your little magician flying across?
Yeah, I had an animation of a witch on a broom flying across the CMU campus, and I thought that would be a fun way to get them to see a little bit of campus, especially while everyone was remote, just incorporating in a little bit of CMU and CMU's culture into the module.
The takeaway for me as an instructor and as an educator was how nice it was to see someone take what they're learning at CMU and show students how applicable it is in the real world. It's not uncommon for children in, you know, K-8 or high school learning to feel as if the math that they're taking or the science that they're taking has no application. And probability has such a broad application, as you know. And it's in more than just, you know, your math class. It's in so many different aspects of university learning. And then as we head into the real world, it's so relevant to things we do in our day-to-day life. And so being able to make it relatable for children, being able to share that that's what you're learning as a student who's, you know, entering the workforce, interning, getting ready to apply for jobs, it really is a full circle STEM experience. And to me, that was so beneficial. I can hear, you know, past students of mine saying, when am I ever going to use this? And turning it to this module and saying, here's how you're going to use it. And being able to show that not only is it fun and something that they can learn from, but also something that you, Nishka, are using as you enter the workforce.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for providing this opportunity. It was a lot of fun for me, and you two were both amazing to work with.
Hi, I'm Sophia Lee. I am a junior in electrical and computer engineering at CMU. I helped make the Discovering DNA module.
Talk about is just some of the obstacles that you guys faced in creating this module. I think you were in a unique situation in that you were working both remotely and in partnership. So if you can address some of the challenges of working on a module, both as a pair and also just in the remote space, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I found was a challenge about working in a partnership remotely was just communication became a lot harder. Usually when you're in a room with another person, it's easy enough just to ask a quick question and get a response. But since Sophia and I were not in the same room, you know, we had like a long email chain going back and forth and everything. We had tons of shared Google Docs and folders. So definitely staying organized and just communicating about little details, that was something that was challenging about working in a pair remotely.
Yeah, something else that was challenging for working in a pair was that we had to tie all the ideas together from lesson one to the last one. So we had to figure out how our two parts of the module would come together, making sure all the low-level topics were taught well enough that they would eventually understand the high-level topics when we discussed things like, oh, that allele over there, or that nucleotide. They would understand that when we discussed it.
Sophia, did you face any filming challenges while working from home, even just technical challenges, having a space to work, the right materials to film what you wanted?
For filming challenges, I definitely had trouble with setting up where my phone would be. I ended up having a chair with a box on top of it and my computer holding my phone, tilted at a weird angle. So if it tipped a tiny bit more, it would fall down. So That was my challenge for filming.
I had something similar when I was setting up my filming space. Something that I had a lot of fun with in this module is I did a lot of work on a whiteboard. And what I ended up doing was having a large whiteboard on the floor, and I had my tripod set up over top of it. And I just crawled underneath between two of the tripod legs and stuck out my arm to draw on the whiteboard. That was a time. That was an adventure.
So another challenge I had is I am filming on my porch, and for a couple days it was raining. It was pouring. I could not film. I could not talk over the rain. So that was a challenge, just being louder than the rain or waiting for the rain to go away.
Yeah, we weren't in any sort of like professional or designated filming spaces. A lot of it did feel very day to day. Like I was filming in my basement. If there was someone vacuuming upstairs, or, you know, if someone upstairs was getting in an argument about some board game or about who ate who's leftover, they would put a pause on filming for a little while. And I think that's something we had to do a lot during the pandemic, was figure out how to fit in academic life or different projects into home life. So this was definitely a great example of that too.
We had a partnership in the group. Both students were living in shared housing, and subsequently they would have to schedule their filming around their roommates' schedules. So one might be able to film from 1 to 3 p.m. and then stop because someone was taking an evening course, and the other might not be able to film until 9 the next morning because their roommate was taking a class. So there was a lot of challenges to living either at home, like you were saying, Shaylin, and having to film outside, like you said, Sophia, or living in shared housing and having to share an office space in your living room or in your dining room. It wasn't uncommon in our class meetings to have pets on people's laps and siblings in the background, but we were able to really take advantage of our Zoom classroom and our online resources to engage with each other, even in chaotic living and working spaces. How would you describe what you took away from this process? What would you find as the most rewarding part of working on these remote modules, both as an individual and maybe working in partnership?
One of the most rewarding experiences for me on this project was getting to see all the work I did at the beginning through the planning stages, the brainstorming, the filming templates, and see it all come together in the final video. It was really rewarding.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we should be really proud of ourselves. I was really impressed with what we were able to do with like incorporating visuals into what we were talking about next to us on the screen and the different activities that we came up with. You know, it was just an idea about, we're both interested in DNA and genetics, and then see where it went from there.
I think it's very impressive the amount of content that you're able to create in a short period of time. Just like you said, coming off a shared interest. So from the beginning to the end, it's a lot of work, but there's an incredible amount of content for partnering up and then saying, we both like DNA, let's see where this takes us.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting part of planning our module too, is we decided to work together in a way where we would have a big split of the module, where Sophia would work on the first half and I would work on the second half of it. And looking back on it, we covered so much. Like, I think it's definitely a module where someone could split it over the course of a few days, and like tackling part 1 and part 2. And I really liked how we worked from the microscopic lens, like looking specifically at the structure of DNA, to talking about more macroscopic features of genetics and how DNA combines to like make a certain animal look the way it does. And I thought that was a really neat way to approach it. I had fun doing that.
So now, in reflection of the entire experience a year later, how would you sum up participating in this project?
I had so much fun participating in it, which I think I've echoed before. I remember in middle school thinking that DNA and genetics was one of the most interesting, coolest topics I ever learned about. So getting to share my excitement about that by filming it and making a module was really great. I loved revisiting like the magic of Punnett squares. I remember thinking, wow, that's so great how we can just draw it out so organized. Again, I think one of the most fun parts about the creation of any module is that we were given so much creative freedom. to, come up with our own activities and deliver content in different ways. I had a lot of fun making the murder mystery that I had at the end of this module. That was a challenge. It took a couple of trial and errors. I had to reverse engineer it to get to the solution that I wanted to and backwards analyze pedigrees and Punnett squares and things. But I was really proud of that at the end. And it was exciting to try to find new ways to teach this content, think back on activities that I loved in high school and apply those here for new students.
Yeah, my overall experience was amazing. I got to take something I loved, DNA, and make it for the next generation to learn about how cool it is. Because DNA really does make up who we are as people, and they get to see that. We have materials that you can find at home, so it was a very do-it-at-home experience. You don't need a microscope, you don't need high-tech technology. You can just use soap and alcohol to, for example, extract DNA, or Punnett square to follow your heritage. For extracting DNA, I looked through a couple different websites and tried to pull all the data together of what would make the best experience for extracting DNA. I knew I needed soap and alcohol and some container. So it was after Mother's Day or something, and there were all these flowers, and they had these cute little plastic containers that were round and looked so much like beakers. And I'm like, I gotta use those. So I threw away the flowers and I got the little tubes and I cleaned them out, and that is what you see the DNA extracted from. It was also fun because the previous activity, which was building up the cell from the nucleus and the organelles to the cell walls, I actually got to deconstruct that as I was extracting the DNA so they could see how each ingredient removed each part of the cell.
It's so cool. I think that one of the things that we're learning from talking to you guys is how the silver lining of taking a remote course during the pandemic really brought out a new layer of creativity. So something that you might see around your house every day and not pay any attention to all of a sudden becomes a really useful tool when you're trying to do an experiment where you don't have lab access, you don't have access to chemicals, or you don't have access to materials. So it was really exciting and motivating to see everyone on their videos grabbing funny, tools out of their kitchen, out of their bathroom, out of their mom's office to get into their experiments at home. This course gave us a unique opportunity to really flex that creative muscle and ask ourselves, if we're stuck at home, how can we continue to be inquisitive, to experiment, to engage with STEM learning? And I think you guys provided a really great example of how in-depth that can be with very little resources.
Hi, and welcome back. Pam Piskridge, the program director for Gelfand Outreach, and we have students with us right now finishing the final interviews of the digital education module class. Why don't you all come on and just introduce yourself and say hello. Me?
Hi, I'm Mimi Wertheimer. I'm the program administrator at the Leonard Gelfand Center, and I partnered with Pam on the instructing of this class. When I was not working with Pam on digital education modules, I run the LGC tutoring program and support the Gelfand Outreach series and any of the variety of outreach offerings that we have at the Gelfand Center.
I can say hi next. Hi, everybody. I'm Shaylin. I'm a student at CMU, and I helped make 2 of the digital education modules for the summer course, Out of This World and Discovering DNA.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Nishka, and I'm a rising senior at CMU, and I created the Probability Magic module. And I'll pass it on to Sophia to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sophia, a rising junior at Carnegie Mellon with electrical and computer engineering, and I helped create the Discovering DNA module.
Well, we just want to say thank you to all of you for participating in these interviews and talking to us about your experience working through the digital education module series. to kind of round up the experience that we've had through the interviews, Pam and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the takeaway was. So with that in mind, we'd like to ask if the course and your work to making the modules has influenced your plans moving forward at all. And if so, how might you have changed the trajectory you have going into the future?
I can go. So one thing that changed immediately after I took the course was I was really interested in teaching after that, which I had never really explored before. I did a little bit of tutoring in high school, but it wasn't too extensive. So I actually signed up to be a tutor on an online platform throughout quarantine, which was like a really nice way to connect with students from across the country. And one of them, I actually was tutoring math to a third grade student in Boston, and we've been working together for the past year. So that was something new, like a new passion that came out of taking this course, which was really cool.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. For me, I discovered more of my passion for science communication. I wasn't completely sure the direction that I wanted to take my chemistry degree in. I knew that I wanted to be a bridge kind of between the scientific community and the public. And going through this course was actually really great practice for that. You know, having to take a scientific concept and be able to frame it in a way where people who are not experts or students, even like kindergartners through 8th grade learners, can understand what you're talking about. Since then, I've actually decided that I want to do a lot more with science communication. I'm actually participating in a Washington semester program at Carnegie Mellon, where I'll be able to intern in DC. And I'm currently looking for internships that are with environmental groups who are taking a lot of scientific data and up and coming research and writing up summaries and explaining that to legislators and people who can pass laws regarding it. So it's another form of science communication, but certainly this course helped me refine those skills.
And congratulations on that internship. It's awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be going.
So what changed for me was I became a lot more confident in teaching. Going into my sophomore year, I began TAing for the Intro to Engineering course because I had built up that confidence throughout the summer teaching science, and it was a lot of fun, plus I made money. I really enjoyed my experience teaching, and it led me to want to do some more of it.
Okay, the second question we wanted to ask you, if you had to do it all over again, would you? Would you sign up to take this class? Why or why not?
I can go first. I would say that I would definitely sign up to take the course again. Coming into it, I knew that I would be teaching and designing a course, but I didn't know how much I would learn from it. But then going through the course, I ended up learning so much. So in the beginning, we talked about not only using text and words to teach younger students, but including images and helpful videos. And we got guidance on how to create those to be most effective, and just little tips and tricks here and there that really helped make teaching more fun and more beneficial for the students who would be taking the courses. And so that was something where I felt like I learned a lot from that process. In addition to that, I also learned so much about creating videos and editing them. And it was a long process, sometimes difficult, but it was in the end like so much fun. I really enjoyed seeing everyone's creative ways of making videos. So some people, I know Shaylin had a lot of props in hers, which was really nice. Like created a whole setup, and then I tried to use more animations and online tools to help set up the videos. So that was something that I really liked, and I loved working with all of you. And Pam and Mimi were great teachers.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of what you said, Nishka. The course was so much more than just, here's my final product. Okay, it really taught me a lot along the way, not just about teaching, but also about video editing, which surprisingly I had to do a lot of this year in school because we were remote with so many student organizations too. I would, in a heartbeat, sign up to take the class again. I agree with your comment about the creativity. Having edited a lot of the modules, I got to see a lot of the different ways that people decided to teach things. And I actually learned a lot from other people too. Sophia, I really enjoyed like all your uses of the challenge time that you put into our module. In the future, that made me think, oh, I want to make sure that I incorporate more challenges into some of my work for the more advanced learners. And Nishka, absolutely, all of your animations with like the little character, that seems like such a good way to keep younger learners engaged. And so I loved picking up a lot of skills, not only from Pam and Mimi, who gave us so much wonderful content, but I learned so much from the other students in the class as well. So I would definitely retake it.
I agree with both Nishka and Shaylin. If given the chance, I would absolutely retake this module course. I've learned presentation and communication skills, which are invaluable for any career I choose to be in. I also learned what it takes to go from the beginning brainstorming of what grade do I want to present to, what topic do I want, all the way to finished project of the fully edited videos. And then I also learned how much I enjoyed teaching. Also, how much my professors might enjoy teaching. And it helped me understand that my teachers love teaching their students and not to be as afraid to reach out to them and ask for help or ask them about their careers. I really learned that about both myself and them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I think I speak for Pam and myself when I say that we are really gratified to hear those pieces of feedback, because, you know, our end goal for all of you was to create content that was academically appropriate and engaging and creative. But to be honest, we had no idea that some of these takeaways would come to be. So it's really lovely to hear that not only did you get so much out of it personally, but it also provided you with some perspective about the educators in your life, because at CMU, there are so many valuable resources just in your professors, but it can be hard to relate to them in some ways. And so going through this experience and feeling that you can better understand where they're coming from is such a lovely additional takeaway from what we had intended.
Yeah, and not that this is a shock to any of you as we taught. You knew that this was the first time that Mimi and I also conducted a class online. That was challenging in and of itself, a little behind the scenes with what we did. Our class met on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Mimi and I would meet on Mondays to outline our lesson plan, get our objectives ready, discuss presentation, and Mimi did a lot of coaching in technology with me. You don't know, after teaching in person for 35 years plus, it was so hard and difficult for me at times to glean, are they getting it? I would say to Mimi, did the light bulb go on or did the fog come in? I didn't know if they were understanding it, which presented another obstacle for us to get over. We began meeting on Fridays just to discuss the students of the class, to make sure we did our check-in when we thought someone was experiencing difficulty. And I want to tell you, honestly, I look forward to those Tuesdays and Thursdays from noon until 1:30 for those 9 weeks. They were the highlight of my job in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah, I agree with Pam. We didn't know what was going to happen to the work of the Gelfand Center when the pandemic came to be, because I would say 95% of what Pam and I personally do at the Gelfand Center is in-person outreach. Pam runs classes that children come on campus and participate in, and I work with student employees to work in community schools and after-school programs. We were very panicked that the quality of our work was going to go down, and the amount of work we were able to do to support the community was going to go down or become non-existent. So when the opportunity to design the course arose, we were both very excited initially, and then all of a sudden we thought, do we know what we're getting ourselves into? We've never taught college students before. And what I'm not sure you students know is that at the time that we taught the course, I had not completed my first year at the Gelfand Center. I'm now into my second year at the Gelfand Center. I'll soon have my 2-year anniversary, but I had come directly out of the classroom. So I've been teaching for 7 years, and I had been working in early childhood and middle school in a variety of age groups, and did not have a ton of context for working with college students. So I was very nervous about that experience, but I feel really gratified by what we experienced with the group. Pam and I would often say to each other, wow, these students are so engaged. We were expecting more, summer apathy or frustration because of being cooped up at home. But instead, what we got was a really beautiful online learning community. And for me, I think the takeaway was, one, the confidence to continue to work with student employees or students or teach classes that combine your learning and your studies with our backgrounds in education. And then also just the opportunity to really expand the content that the Gelfand Center offers. One of the great takeaways from teaching the course was the opportunity for me to go to our director, Dr. Hallinan, and say, this digital education module course was really successful remote. Why don't we take LGC tutoring remote and work with our local community schools to take our tutoring online? And because of the class being so successful, we were able to do that. And now, as it becomes safer to return to in-person services, we are going to continue to offer hybrid tutoring, both online and in person, because of the success of that. So I have you guys to thank for that.
I think the legacy will be there, that at any time a younger student can click on the module, download the handouts, and it's there. So thank you again for all that.
The last thing I'd like to share with you guys is that when Pam and I designed this course, I'm not confident that either of us knew what these modules would look like. Yeah. And at one point, Pam said to me, I don't even know how they're going to make them. And I said, I'm trusting these young students to have much more knowledge of technology than you or I have. We didn't feel confident about what software was available, about what resources were available. And I said, I'm just going to take it on faith that they will bring to the table a lot of knowledge and we will learn from them. It was a lucky gamble, right?
Right.
So when students would come to us with frustrations about editing software or animation resources or photos that they could use in their modules, we were able to take it to the group and really crowdsource information. We learned a lot about how many different resources are online and available for free that offer a lot of really interesting ways to edit and create content. I took some of that away and use it now. Would not have had that without students in the course really sharing what they've used and what they've found successful.
So Shaylin, you had asked if Mimi and I would do it again. I think we would. Don't you, Mimi?
I'd love to. It's funny, I was saying to Dr. Hallinan at the end of my first year of employment, how much I really found joy in mentoring the students and being able to take what I learned as an instructor and share it with you guys. So any opportunity to do that, now knowing how fulfilling it was, I would love that.
Well, I just also want to thank the two of you so much for this experience and this course. Some of the students here might be able to agree too that when we were getting into it, we were like, well, fingers crossed, like I like science or like I like math. We'll see what happens. But the fact that you had so much faith in us and were just willing to let us pick a topic that we loved, present it in a way that worked for us, I think that's part of what made the course so fun for all of us. We were trusted with a lot, and I think because of that, a lot of people were really enthusiastic and put in a lot of work into their modules. So just thank you for creating a learning environment where we felt free to do that and reach out to you for help and just try something new that we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do. So thank you two so much.
I would completely agree with everything Shaylin just said. I wanted to thank you, Mimi and Pam, so much for everything you did for us last summer. I know you mentioned that you didn't really know what the end products would look like, but we had full faith that you did, which is really reassuring.
That's
So
a good feature.
We went along with it and always felt your support throughout the whole process, and it was really great.
I'm so glad to hear that. I think that in a really challenging time, it was super fulfilling to create our insular little class community. I think I mentioned in one of the interviews, crazy things would happen with remote learning. People might have to be in, their basement or their car or they're wherever taking the class because of family. My dog got out in the middle of one class and a neighbor brought him back, and people would have cats on their laps or pets by their sides or siblings nearby.
We commented almost every week that, oh, there's Sophia. I hope the car is air conditioned.
Oh, it was never on. It was sitting there in like 90, 100-degree weather, just the door open, spray bottle next to me, and I just spritzed myself.
Poor Sophia in her overheating in her car. Even with all that commotion, we were able to accomplish something really nice and also feel like we weren't alone in such a unique and challenging time. So to create a learning environment, to create content out of that learning environment that will live on through the Gelfand Center website, through your portfolios, hopefully you can take that with you, was such a nice silver lining out of what was a very unknown period in our history. So I think I speak for Pam and I when I say we're very proud to have that as a Gelfand Center legacy coming out of this remote year and a half, almost 2 years of learning. We want to thank everyone for watching this documentary, clicking on all the modules and enjoying the content was created, and following along on our journey of creating these digital education modules in this course during the summer in which COVID took all of us remote. We really enjoyed sharing everything that we experienced with you and hope that you continue to check out all the exciting educational content on the Leonard Gelfand Center website.
Great.
And if you need our waves to last longer, just loop it over and over.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.